And we're live on this Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. This is the group chat, a rebrand and a reboot of our morning stream. We like to call it the group chat because we want it to be interactive, including you, the listener, the viewer. So if you have any feedback, good, bad, or ugly, we can take it. I'm Tara Thomas.
And I'm Amanda Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us on this Wednesday morning. I have to say that I'm liking you've got like the Hollywood wet look.
Oh, it's the Wet and Wild 80s hairband because I shampooed my hair today. Thank you. But
it's good. Okay.
I could only partially blow dry it. I didn't have time for the full blowout, and I just let it air dry. Yeah, that's what you said. It's 35.
I'm not even exaggerating. I stopped to get my Alani, if you want to sponsor that,
let's hit them up for
sponsorship. But I'm not even exaggerating.
Oh
no, you're fine. I'm just short. I was opening the door to Casey's and I was like holding on. I thought I was gonna blow up, and it's like very much the Wicked Witch.
But so okay, I have a story.
I have to. All right, I'm
gonna move this over.
I am a fierce competitor.
Okay.
Well, okay. So in all of our where your kids go to school, where my kids go to school, we all have our rivalries, right? And you can agree, wherever you went or your kids go right now, you have rivalries. But I saw something last night that was so disgusting. Like that's the only word we can use to describe it. And my husband was so disgusted, and he's always like Switzerland. He's very neutral about everything. So you know how before every game, a lot of schools have the Jumbotron, and they do the hype video before they announce. So our boys are getting ready to play. They're starting to play the video, and I like watching the video. Like it's done very well. The music is
right.
The opposing team's student body is booing so loudly we can't hear the video. They are booing so loudly during when our boys are being announced at our gym.
Wow, that is unusual.
And I was just sitting there, and what caught me is like no parent moved.
Like, so that must be a standard thing.
Is that the standard? Mm-hmm. And I was very disappointed because I went to a similar kind of high school, and had we done that in my high school,
they would have shut it down.
Where we had nuns and priests teaching. Are you kidding me? We would have been escorted out of that gym immediately. Had our student body done that, I mean, we can't even. I mean, they had one of those chants during football season, where they were like, I think, saying 3 blind mice, making fun of the refs, which is again, and our athletic director shut it down immediately. Like it's just so you can have school spirit, but you cannot have disrespect. But then again, Tara, we've all seen the student Barstool accounts.
Oh gosh!
So I was just mad about that.
To be concerned about the future of humanity, look at the student Barstool accounts, and I think it's pretty much equal opportunity offenders across
1,000%.
All the schools. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of policing because no one will admit, who's behind the accounts, and that is the danger or the reality of social media is kids can have their trolling and their sort of anonymous free speech with little to no oversight. Because even if you try to report it, I get it. There's a high level of allowance because they don't want to become censorship police on these platforms. But at what cost to a kid's mental health when they're a target?
You know, and here's the thing. You and I, because it's the journalist in us and people always reach out to us and we have our ways of doing it. Journalists we're investigators. That's what we do, right? Because we were inquisitive kids. We always find out who's behind them. So what was funny for me is when I found out there was one that was just vile. There was one bar that was crossing the line. It was just vile. It was nasty. It was disgusting. And then I found out who was behind it. And you talk about somebody who was like Jekyll and Hyde. And then for the parent, because the parents are very much, my kid would never.
The parents would have been horrified.
And so for me though, and someone's like, well, did you tell them? I'm like, no, I just like having that satisfaction that I know. I know what's really, I know what you're really about. That's what it is, right? Like that's how you and I have lived our life in the glass fish world. We see, we can't unsee now. We can't unhear and so it's.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And again, full disclosure, realize that we too might have circumstances involving our children that we know nothing about. So we're in no way claiming to be authorities on other people's kids.
No. But I think the difference is, for me, I can only speak for myself. My children are going to mess up. My children are going to say stupid things. They're going to do stupid things. You know what I mean? But mommy's going to go real hood on you real quick. I'm going to check you.
Yes, you would hope at the minimum, that they would understand that our expectations, what we have sort of poured into them, there is a standard that they need to uphold, in contrast to sometimes it's the parents' reaction is laughing and like, oh, kids will be kids. But when it crosses into like racist and discriminatory behavior, it's sad, because how would they ever think that was permissive unless there may not have been an intentional acknowledgement of that being wrong by parents.
Right. And I think this is what I say to my kids all the time. Like when my kids say something stupid and I tell them, I'm like, where I am, like, you say something stupid out there in the real world, you're getting popped in the mouth.
I was just going to say that you'll get popped.
You're going to get popped in the mouth. So you have to like watch. But I mean, because I've gotten popped in the mouth many a time, like growing up, but it was kind of funny. I had to tell my daughter the other day, there was a game on Monday. I do not watch basketball games as a parent.
Because you played in college.
Because I played, so I'm a basketball player. So I watch games as a player. I also watch games, like my dad coached for 20 years. Right. So the the officiating was like, here. And I understand, like when people say like, and this is what I want to say, like referees get, verbally attacked. And I do not support that.
Right.
Like I do not support that. But I come from a place back home where you're like, you got to call that. Like, that's not what I say. Like, you got to call that. So there was one play where the ball was over here on this side and then there was a ref all the way on the other side and he calls a foul. So I stand up. I'm like, you're out of position to make that call. And so my daughter was like, you sounded like the drunk guy from Hoosiers who stormed onto the court. And so she had
Dennis
said,
Hopper,
shooter, And so I was like, and I was so mad at her because she was policing what I was saying.
Yes.
But
that's what our kids do.
She's like, Mom, you embarrass me. Like, you're not. And so then I felt bad.
Yeah.
So I had to I'm like, okay, I am sorry that because my voice carries, I'm very loud.
Okay. You and my husband are the exact same person of different genders at these games. And my husband's a retired PE teacher. So he too can project his voice and he yells out on a regular basis. If a ref across the court makes a call, he'll yell out, you couldn't even say that. Let the other guy call, So yeah, you guys are kindred spirits. We have to give a shout out to two friends who are sharing good morning, as we would love you to comment as well. Our friend Jenny Bird now. Good morning. I'm trying to lean in. Sunshines. Thank you, Jenny. I had to lean in to see that. She's the best. Yeah. And we have been thinking of Jenny. Her mom passed away, and it's such a huge loss when a parent is no longer a part of your life. And, she was telling me, as many have experienced, that moment where, you go to pick up the phone because you're excited to tell your mom something. And then you have the sinking feeling of, oh, I forgot, she's no longer here. So prayers to Jenny and our friend Rebecca Hackman. Good morning. Nice to see you. We are going to be back in her area soon.
Yes.
And there's so many fun, I think it's in Lawler. There's so many fun repeats of 2026 that are happening with some of our show schedule. And then of course, a lot of new towns, including Prairie du Chien. So tonight we're going to be in Traer. If you'd love to still join us, a few tickets remain, and it is faithin4letterwords.com, the website. So www.allwrittenOut, faithin4letterwords.com. You can check out a link to all the upcoming shows that are live. Then there's the merchandise, and then we have a link to our books on Amazon. So it's fun to have all this great content that we share in different ways.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to be back in Traer tonight. Somebody had asked if we are going to discuss what happened in there. It was a horrible tragedy. There was a murder, and I said, no, we are not. We are not using a show. We are not using a horrible tragedy in a small community to capitalize on anything. All we can say, we pray for, the children in that case.
Yes.
And if you're familiar with it, you can Google it. I don't want to use this for that, but it was featured on Dateline a couple weeks ago. And I was so proud of the people who were being interviewed in that, because
some of whom we know.
And I mean, you have to understand when you're like interviewed on Dateline, when you're interviewed for a news story, that's like local. And when you're local people, knowing that they did so well on a national, international platform. And I had texted one of the women who was involved, and I'm like, I'm so proud of you, how brave you are.
Yeah, it's true.
It is, because it's very, very hard. You get those cameras in front of you, and then you get a national correspondent in front of you. So they did an excellent job. But it is going to be, I'm excited to go back to Traer. we're excited to talk this year, 2026. We're doing a new book. We're doing children's books. And this is why, because I know that you were the same. Tara and I were always, we talked too much. We got in trouble. And I was always,
yes.
I was always apologizing. I can't explain it. I was always getting in trouble. Looking
Same.
back, it was just for being me though.
Right. We were considered bossy.
We were considered bossy, and I was considered too much, or
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
tone it down.
Too loud.
Too. I was always too. And so I was like, oh, it's me. And so I just felt, you had to kind of shrink it.
That's right.
Yeah, and I had to apologize. It's like, oh, sorry, or you're never going to get paid to talk, so just stop. Or it was, you always have to have your opinion, don't you? Like, why do you always have to be combative? Like, that's, if I would just say, hey, I don't like that. Why does there always have to be an argument? And looking back, I was just trying to be a leader. I was just trying to use my voice.
Yeah, you were assertive, and you were naturally one who would take the lead. And
Yes.
sometimes that means offending those who don't like to have another person
Be
like telling them what to do.
passive. I'm just not passive.
Yeah, and I was the same way. And so it is refreshing that now, as mothers and grandmothers, we can really pour into girls, especially, and help them to understand that that's not wrong, especially when an adult might treat you differently than a male counterpart. Because sometimes, and it's just a conscious or unconscious bias, the boys are given a lot more grace of being kind of rowdy and taking charge, whereas the girls, it's kind of like the default is you're pushy and you're obnoxious. And so for all of our talkative young people out there, embrace that quality, because someday it will serve them well when they're in real world situations where they might shrink and they will start to maybe find their voice. And then there's men who will champion an outspoken woman, secure men, many of whom we've been fortunate to work with. If you're just joining us, it is what time? Let me ID the time, and the
time is 7:11.
7:11. Gotta love that. Swing by 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee.
Those were the days.
Slurpees.
Well, the other thing is about with young women, I want them to know is that it's crazy to me when women are young girls, where we're young girls, and now passive people get many more free passes than direct. I think we get punished if we're being direct, when really direct women should be kind of honored more, because I can't tell you how, growing up and and then, friends through life, it was the ones that were always, very, very nice, but they were always talking about everybody else behind their back, where it was kind of, you come to me, and
in the corporate or professional setting, it's those people who are nice to your face, and then they're talking to HR behind your back, as we both experience. I mean, I have had people talk to HR or tattle to HR about something that I wasn't intentional or wasn't considered wrong. But it's like, sometimes I think people are looking for any way to kind of knock you down and put you in your place.
And that's where I really that has happened so many times to me. And I come out, and then people smile at me, and I'm like this, say it to my face. And I immediately go, just for me, it's,
right.
If you have if you're feeling some type of way, that is fine. That is completely fine. Just tell me, be direct. I don't understand that. And how does that make me, with people, you're going to know, and people will say, well, I heard you said this about me. Well, did I tell you? If I didn't tell you to your face that I did not, I promise you, I did not say it. But if you come, did I say? Yeah, I did say that. I'm very, very honest and very, very direct, and I'm not trying
which is hard for people to take, because we're so used to everybody being fake and very pleasant, and then behind your back feeling maybe a different, or expressing themselves a different way.
You're a Midwest girl, and I'm not asking this to offend anybody, but is it a Midwest thing?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Well, insofar as not wanting to hurt people's feelings. And so what that does sometimes is it creates this environment where you have a false sense of support, which is why, like I'm saying, then you're blindsided when somebody who has been so nice to your face actually backdoored you to HR, those kinds of things. So I do think, when I grew up in Illinois, and then when I went to college in Boston and I lived in DC, I definitely saw the contrast between how people there are more direct and sometimes pushy without any kind of mannered approach to it. So, shoving you through a door and not saying, "Oh, excuse me," whereas we're like, "Oh, oh." That's what we do. So funny.
Did people really shove you? That's really awful.
No, you know what I mean. When it's on a subway, you're crowded.
Oh,
I
sure,
mean,
sure.
you're pushing through.
Yeah,
so I mean,
we
the
don't-
kinds of
yeah.
things that here people aren't used to because
You
we
s-
simply don't have that
You
level
said,
of.
oh,
Yeah, we do. We say, I didn't even realize I said it until one day somebody was like,
It's the
that's
best
the
word.
Midwest thing is to be like, "Oh, excuse me," and I'm like,
I
"Oh,
love
do
it.
do that." Yeah.
It's the one
We
word
don't
I
even
talk
know
with.
we do it. It's so culturally ingrained in us. So my daughter, similarly, as a contrast, when she went to college in Arizona, she said, and it's the same on that side of the country. I mean, a lot of nice people, but definitely not the same level, I would say, of Midwest nice. So she has experienced situations where in college in Arizona, when she has held the door for somebody, she said they're like perplexed, like, "Oh, thank you," because they're so surprised at that level of courteous behavior. And that's something that you, as a Midwesterner, can wear as a badge of honor, because when you go places, people will respect the fact that you're, in our minds, being normal in terms of being courteous and having manners. But to those individuals growing up in a contrast, it will be like, "You're so nice. You're so conscious of other people." So fun story that you'll appreciate. There is a kid who's from here who now works in real estate in Florida, I think in Naples. And I said to him something along the line of, it must be hard going into like a completely different world and a culture. And he said, actually, being from the Midwest has given him an advantage because he's so friendly, down to earth, and relatable, in contrast to some of his more, aloof counterparts.
Sure.
And so it's helped him be more successful because people are like, "Oh, he's really nice."
And as long as it's a genuine nice.
Well,
because I can spot a phony from a mile away.
Because we've all seen the
because
fake.
it's like street smart. And it's funny, like being from PA, like you mentioned, like my biggest pet peeve is when I hold the door, and I hold the door for everybody. And I will hold the door even if someone's like 20 feet away, 50 feet, like I'll wait for you, like, because I feel like this is a genuine sign of respect. When they don't say thank you, I want to like pull them back, kick them back outside the store, and I want to close the door. It's kind of like when somebody, like if I let somebody walk across, it's like, walking,
and they don't wave the high sign.
They don't give me that, like, and I'm like,
what do you guys call that? We call it the high sign.
Like a wave.
Yeah, we say
the high sign.
The high sign.
The
like,
high sign.
Like if you go like that, it's like the high sign.
Oh, you got
Okay, so that reminds me of something interesting.
The high sign
that I just thought of.
Okay.
So did you know, and you may know, having talked to people about this, years ago, I covered a series of stories about women getting gastric bypass.
Okay.
One of my close friends at the time, she was a very successful morning DJ. She weighed 354 pounds and she had gastric bypass successfully and has kept it off 4 years. She dropped over the span of a year to 175.
Wow, that's remarkable.
So it was so fun because not only was I literally there in the operating room, which, by the way, the doctor and the surgical team played the soundtrack from Bare Naked Ladies, which I thought
that's a I guess with your surgery,
as my friend is splayed out.
Was it If I Had $1 Million?
Yeah, it was just hilarious. I mean, the imagery and everything. So when she started to drop the weight, I mean, dramatically and drastically over time, she said to me, and this is so fascinating, she said, "It's so weird. For the first time in my life, men are opening doors for me. Men are acknowledging me." And so what I came to learn about that you'll find interesting is women, especially who go through drastic weight loss at this point, years ago, primarily by way of like a major surgery like gastric bypass. I mean, the weight loss drugs didn't exist then. There is like an 80% divorce rate when they were with their spouse or significant other. Yes.
Okay.
Because, and I get this, I mean, it blew my mind and I felt so bad, and she ended up getting a divorce, and I love her ex and we're still friends. It was a situation where all of a sudden, sometimes you may not even recognize it, but it was like the world received her differently. So it always struck me as something that was, to your point, indicative of how some of the pleasantries can be discriminatory. Like
Sure.
we can be nicer to somebody if we deem them more attractive, you know?
Yeah, it's
and
interesting.
then also you hold that thought also, the rates of alcoholism among some of the people that had gastric bypass are quite high
'Cause the
because you
addiction.
have a smaller stomach, so it absorbs alcohol so
Mhm.
much faster, and so a small amount of alcohol can become almost lethal or at the level of binging if you have a
and I-
normal sized stomach.
And I have to wonder if it's like, because I have a food addiction for sure.
Same.
Right? Like
Same.
1,000% of food addiction.
That's
why
our vice.
That's why when
right?
I was on, when I was doing the shots that I'm
This
wearing
is like
a romper.
flash dance.
Like I know, I'm like, my romper's coming down. But when because I was on the shot, like I posted about it before because it turned off the food noise, right? It's not like
that's
this magic.
what Oprah said this week when they had her interview with Jane Pauley on the Sunday morning show.
I was on it for about, 2 years, I think, lost 85 pounds. And it's not a magic thing. Like when people, and the reason I never talked about it before is because at that point people were like, they're taking it from diabetics. And that was not at all. Like it was two separate things. But I was very unhealthy and I was addicted to food and no one understands it. So when you were, in the news thing, and we talked about this in our speaking series, I was restricted to like 750 calories a day because I had to be a certain size. So I would wait until I got home at night. My husband and my kids were in bed. And then it was like, I was the raccoon going through the trash can, eating food. And so I was sneaking food too, which my husband didn't care if I was, right. I would lay in bed and I was
because of the guilt.
Oh my gosh. I would lay in bed and I would think my husband's leftover Chinese food. Like, and it's the joke in our house. Like my husband will never have leftovers when he wakes up in the morning. He would go over the leftovers. Nope. Mommy ate them at midnight. But it turns off. So I was always wondering, like, unless you fix that addiction thing in your brain, like,
yes,
you could switch to something else. So I'm thankful. At the same time, I started doing the shot because it was right after I had UC, which this shot has helped me with my ulcerative colitis. I have far fewer flares because of it, because I have this extra weight off. I also stopped drinking alcohol because my GI was like, you're burning your insides, stop, you're going to make it worse. And it's counterproductive if you're on the shot. So
they probably don't want you to drink alcohol with that medication either, because you have to get an infusion, right?
I have to get, yes. But here's the other thing. So my dear friend, Christy O'Connell, who owns Rock Gym in Waterloo, Iowa.
Love Christy.
She's the best. Good morning, Christy. She's at the gym right now. I know she's probably teaching a class.
Yes. She's not watching. She's working out.
So I would go faithfully all the time. And I have not because the early mornings, well, here I am. This is right. But she would say to me, she's like, you can be in here every single day. You can be in here every single day. But if you're not changing what you're doing in the kitchen and if you're still drinking, it's not. Yeah. It doesn't matter. You have to stop drinking.
It like 90% is the food and 10% is the exercise?
It's 1,000%
or something crazy.
It's 1,000% the food. Like it is.
Well, that's such a good point. But also another kind of mind shift that she has acknowledged had to be made is when you no longer have that crutch of I'm on the shot, so to speak, you had to recognize then that it's a lifestyle change.
Oh, 1,000%. If you don't change this, because here's the thing, I always knew what foods I had to eat. I know what foods, like now after being on the shot and being successful and getting healthy again, I only crave, my brain is completely rewired. I only crave, the healthy stuff. Of course, do I have some fries on top of my salad? Or whatever, you know what? Yeah. But it's my brain now is like, okay, you're full. And here's the difference. And people watching, I know you understand this. You and I, Gen X, we are the clean plate club. Yeah. We were never allowed to get up from the dinner table until our plate was clear, right? All of us were like that. And it was just,
now the portions at restaurants are so much bigger.
Well, now I never knew when I was full because I was just eating. And then I just love food so much. So then I was just like eating. So now I eat whatever I want. With what I can for my UC. Like I can't have dairy, I can't eat red meat, but I eat whatever I want, but my portions are completely different. So rather than if there's a plate of fries in front of me, when I used to eat the whole thing, I'll have like 3. Tastes great, and now I'm full.
That's
because I have retrained my brain, and like my stomach is like, I'm eating appropriate things. So, I mean, I'm telling you, when we went to Italy last year for spring break, I ate everything. I mean, I was eating pasta. I was even eating like fresh mozzarella. You know what I mean? Like I was eating all of the things because it was whole food. It was real food because it matters what we put in your body, what we put in our bodies. I came back and I lost 5 pounds.
Yeah, that's
Crazy.
crazy. Plus,
Crazy.
you were walking a lot over cobblestone.
You know, you had Gucci in front of you and you had the Pantheon behind you. It was a very good thing. But I'm just saying, like, I just and the one other thing, like, just how whatever anyone's doing on their journey, whether they're trying to do less alcohol, if they're in dry January, if you're doing dry January right now, I encourage you, because people, like, I've done it and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so good. Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do it and then we're like, how I used to celebrate on February 1st with a bottle of wine. It's like, I feel so good. Like, just keep going. I ain't like, and I'm not telling anybody, because I don't like when people stop drinking and then suddenly they want to shame anybody.
The police.
No, but it's just do some
The sober police.
do some research about what it's doing to your body, and just watch how you change, how you feel, especially when you get older. You just
Well,
I encourage you.
whether you say anything or not, by abstaining, you are policing, because
Sure.
people sometimes feel a certain way if you're not
Well,
in partaking with
well,
them. And I
have to-
warned you.
And I feel I owe you an apology, public apology, because Tara does not drink. She's never had a drop of alcohol. So when Tara and I first,
I tried it in high school.
what'd you try though?
I tried one
Mad Dog?
sip of beer
Oh, okay.
and one sip of something with peach schnapps, and then I was like, "This is not for me."
You don't know, back in the day though, Tara, you didn't know, if you didn't have a Zima, you weren't living. Zima was my very first. I went from Zima to Mad Dog 2020.
Oh my gosh!
I was living that thug
You-
life.
Yeah,
I was living that
you
thug life.
did. You did.
So, but I remember, so I don't know if you know, if I ever told you this. So Tara and I, our time at that television station, Waterloo, overlapped by 30 days. So on her last day, I wanted to present her with this gift. So I'm telling Rick Coleman, who's still the sports guy there. And I was like, yeah, I have like, and I got Tara like wine glasses with her name on it, like in the dates that she was at, you know, the Waterloo station. And his face just dropped. And he was like, Tara doesn't drink. And I go, Tara doesn't drink what? He's like, Tara doesn't drink alcohol. And I'm like, and I remember, and I'm so sorry. I went, why? Like, just, I was like, because we were
What's wrong
newsies,
with
because
her?
news people, we
Because
drink.
news people usually have drinking. No, they.
I mean, it's a business that will lead you to. So, but I remember that, and I remember we always celebrate our birthday together, and we would always go out and we would have a night out dancing and stuff. And I remember looking, and I'm like, how is she having fun? And now it's kind of like, I'm so sorry for ever having that
No, I don't
mindset,
care.
because I actually, it's the view is much more hilarious
Oh,
when you're sober.
1000%. But also, I've had countless times over my adult life where, because I love to dance, because we can be loud and boisterous, people have said, and it's gotten back to me, you know, I saw that Tara Thomas at the Cellar and she was so drunk. And then
No.
they're like, she wasn't.
No, she wasn't.
Like, that's one thing I can, stand on is if in my husband's case, I'm your lifetime designated driver. I will always be sober and happily behind the wheel in any situation. And so it has been kind of fun over the years when we've gone out with people and then everyone's like worried about, well, who's going to be, the person who stays semi-sober, or who's going to drive. And then I'm always like, oh, well, I can drive. I don't drink. And then they're like, oh, so you're just not drinking tonight? No, I just don't. And
Why do we have to explain it?
but I'm not bothered by people around me drinking.
No, you're
Obviously,
not. No,
if I
neither
go
am I.
out, and
Neither
so
am
that's kind of the distinction, is we're not trying to police people when we are out. And again, it's just ingrained so much in the culture that it's become a driver for travel sports. I mean, when I was on,
for sure,
in which we both have spent countless weekends being a part of travel sports. And I mean, those travel sports weekends are synonymous with the cooler and who's bringing the drinks around the pool. And it's just, I mean, and I've seen people with their to-go cups at the fields,
Sure.
And so for me, it's a different level of engagement with alcohol, because I just don't drinking around children to the point of it changing your behavior is just not something that I'm a fan of. And so for me, that was always kind of tough to watch when, the little ones, the younger siblings are are circling the wet deck around the pool, and then the parents are off, getting their buzz on, and I'm like, who's watching?
And I think there's a
kids?
different, like, because growing up, like, with the neighborhood parties and stuff, our family was drinking wine, they were out at the pool and they were drinking their wine coolers and everything. But I never saw, like, my parents were like, they could hang, right, and all but they were never, no one was like doing shots, and no one was acting like the 20s, so
drawing attention to it.
So that's the one thing. I had to have the realization with myself. I had a really good decade in my 20s where it was like party girl status, living my single life, living la vida loca. You know what I mean? Like in Texas, and I mean, I had a really good decade
with La Vida Loca when you met Mr. Telemundo.
When I met my husband, Mr. Telemundo, and then when he and I got married, we had the party house. I mean, we had.
So did Dave and
we
me.
had the party house, and I will never forget. Gia was like a baby, and it was 4th of July, no, Memorial Day weekend. So Gia was like fresh out the womb, like a month old. And my sister was in town, and we had like all of our news people over and all of our friends. And she was like in a bassinet, and we were out back playing like beer pong. And and I think about that now. It's like, what? But like, I had 20s through my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, it's like my daughter said one time, she was like, parents, when they're drunk, it's not cute.
Yeah. Oh, that I agree. And
she was right.
You model the behavior so that your actions totally speak louder than words. And so and it was interesting for me being somebody obviously not drinking, because I always said, I hope my kids are responsible, but I'm also not putting some kind of pressure on them to say my kids will never drink at any point in their lives. Right. I'm realistic. Dave drinks. Yeah. And
okay.
Which funny story that I'll share. But before I do that, let me lean in here. Oh, Danielle Hendershot-Meyer said, Christy is a doll. She is.
She's great. Zima with a Jolly Rancher. Yes, Danielle.
And Dar, hello, good morning. And Danielle said, what'd she say? Oh, that's what you just read. Got you. Yeah.
See, someone find Tara Zima. I know you don't drink, but is there anything, another like a non-alcoholic Zima that
I don't drink carbonation. I gave that up when I was 18.
Oh my God. Zima was like, you had the Zima and you were smoking the Virginia Slim.
Oh my gosh. Which, another fun fact.
Did you ever smoke a cigarette?
Weirdo.
Did you ever smoke a cigarette?
Not a weirdo, but I mean, if you're in my camp, never smoked a cigarette.
Wow.
Never did any drugs, never got high, none of it. And so it's actually kind of interesting. My husband, who was a college baseball player, and who coached baseball for 20 years, he's an anomaly because he was born, he's a lot older than me, and everyone chewed, sure. Especially on the baseball team. So he tried tobacco once, thought it was awful, never chewed again. And so for him to be on that baseball team in college and then coach for 20 years and never chew, you talk about an outlier. So we both have been. So you
literally have never. Yeah.
No. And then when I was young,
I really am the hood friend over here.
Oh gosh. But it's so funny because my dad, he's the one who really drove that anti-smoking mentality in me. And I remember distinctly as a kid, him being very open about, I've never smoked a cigarette. I never will. And when he was dating my mom back when, at that time, a lot of people smoked in the 50s and 60s.
Sure.
And that was his deal breaker, was if my mom continued to smoke, they were done. And so she has said she's grateful that he was so line in the sand on that, because my aunt and my grandma both smoked for many, many years. And one would argue had resulting health problems that were probably tied to the smoking, because back then they just didn't know how it would, impact their bodies.
I used to smoke like in my 20s.
Well, and it's a common thing in the TV news world too.
Oh,
so that was another thing that set me apart.
Well, it was, and that was where you would take a break. Right? You were always working, and it was very fast paced in the newsroom. Fast paced.
It was a stressful environment.
So when you could say, "I'm going outside," and then that's when I would get my news director alone to talk about some stuff. And be like, we're going to go outside and smoke.
And those of you like me who've been the lifetime non-smokers, you will relate to this. Back when smoking was much more accepted in the workplace, especially break times for smoking, I would always be the one back at my desk saying, if I totaled up all the time the smokers took for their breaks, I'd be out of this joint an hour early every day. And so it's a social exclusion if you don't smoke on the job. It can be. And it's a social exclusion if you don't drink, because no one's going to say to Tara, hey, let's go get drinks after work, or hey, meet me at, at the bar. And so it's sad because we want to be included, but because we don't partake of the drug use,
But I think that's why
somehow you're considered judgy. So we don't want
think
Tara
about
out
you
here.
are this is literally like an old school after school special. It's like, I want to be included, so I'm going to smoke a cigarette. Seriously though, that's why I think a lot of people, we started smoking or we started drinking.
But we had the personalities. We're not the peer pressure type.
No, I was smoking.
Like we don't cave to peer pressure.
I would have smoked the soles off my shoes at a point if I could have. I mean, but here's the difference though. Like, this is the difference. So I am very honest with my children. Like, I am brutally honest. They're like, hey mom,
for better or worse.
For better or worse. So like, did you ever drink? Like, yes. Like, mom, did you ever try? Like, did you ever try weed? And I'm like, that. Yeah.
Were you? I'm kidding. I know you weren't, but I was thinking, were you ever in a trap house with your, a tie on your arm?
I never did any of the hard stuff. No, so we can talk about this. I mean, in college, I think in the night, like, we were like the Rusted Root Live, a lot of Grateful Dead, you know what I mean? Like, it was
that was so ever present in my college. I wasn't really
90s,
into that.
Well, in the late 90s, it was, we were like repeating everything in the 70s, right?
That's
like
true.
A lot of people were experimenting with like shrooms, and I remember I never did anything like that because I didn't like anything that made me feel out of control. So it's kind of like did I try weed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You can't prove it, but like, yeah, like, I'm not gonna lie, but I remember
I'm an exception. I think most people did.
Like Mary Jansen said that you're a parent's dream.
Well, and it's funny because both my parents, my dad, of course, now passed on, but both my parents have been social drinkers my whole adult life, and they're, during that time when I was being raised, I mean, alcohol wasn't always present in my home. But I very much knew that my parents had friends who drank or would have parties and drink. And so it was never, I should qualify that, it was never a situation, fortunately, where I wasn't raised by an alcoholic and I wasn't around any kind of abusive behavior that came from drinking.
And that's why
it wasn't a choice because something had happened that made me, so averse to it. But it's either I'm morbid or somebody raised me that had a problem. Because I mean, when I moved to Washington State and you are white and you're blonde and you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't curse, and I don't drink soda.
Are you from Utah?
Yes. Yeah. I immediately fell into the Mormon camp, which is an honor to be associated with like good choices. But it was so funny because I was like, no, I just don't drink. But there is, as you have now experienced, there is a default where people expect that you give them some kind of explanation that exonerates their own guilt. Right. So it's like, oh, well, that's why she doesn't drink, because she has ulcerative colitis, like, well, she's really sick. She had to put down the bottle. Yeah. When really for her, it was a conscious lifestyle change of, I want to put things in me that are considered good for my body.
I want to be healthy.
So, but you still have gummy bears.
What? I have my gummy bears. I eat my gummy bears.
Not
like literally gummy bears. No, you're lace not gummy bears. Real gummy.
I didn't mean
has like the regular gummy bears. No, but so I think like, when I say I was like a partier, I was like a normal partier, Gen X kid, drank, smoked the herb, you know what I mean? Like, whatever. Fine. I think I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did, because I can have very real conversations with my kids, because I am not that parent. Like, my kid would never. My kid probably will. Like one of them, if not all four.
I think that's being realistic.
But I say to them, like, listen, you can't, it's not like back in the 90s. Hey, you want to hit this? You cannot do it.
Correct.
I go, someone will give you something that will kill you.
Well,
you do not do
especially that. Because the synthetic marijuana is supposed to be 10 times more potent than what it was in the 70s.
Well, let me, I don't know what made me think of this. So my brother went to the University of Miami,
where there's a lot of drugs because there's a lot of money.
There's a lot of, he went to the U. So I went down, my family and I went down to visit him. My brother and I are very, very close. He's 5 years younger than me. And he and I went out and we got like, there was some, there was partaking in that. Right. And I remember we came back and we were at a hotel in South Beach and my dad was at the hotel bar and we just walk in and we're like just as happy as can be, right? And my dad's like, "Are you two drunk?" And my brother's like, "No, man, we're high." And then my dad's my dad looks at me because I think at the time I was like,
in your rebellious phase.
Well, I think I was like 22.
Oh,
and so
okay.
my dad was like, "You are like, you're old enough to know better. Like, right? You're old enough to know better." And I would like argue with my dad. I'm like, "Tell me what crime has ever been committed with someone." I'm like, "You're hungry." It was like Cat Williams. I said to my dad, I go, "You're hungry, happy, sleepy." And then it was just like, okay. And then you grow up and you're realizing like, what are you doing? Right.
Well, but it's so weird because if you're like
there.
me and you're like a lifetime teetotaler, you don't distinguish between alcohol and marijuana. So for me, I'm very much in the camp of let's regulate it if we're allowing alcohol to be so prolific.
Well, for me, it's odd that some states it's legalized because
but it's been the ruination for me of Vegas because Vegas used to be a place I love to go. And
I've
now
never liked Vegas.
Well, I like all the things like the clubs and all the shows
Yeah,
and the buffets. Let's be honest, the buffets, which have completely died post-COVID. But here's the crazy thing about Vegas now. And someone told me this distinction and it makes sense. All these states, your Colorados, your Vegas, or your Nevada, you name it, where it's legal, it's not legal, just like smoking, to get high indoors. So unless they have a lounge or a place to go, if it's a public space, then everyone can get high outside, much like they could smoke outside. So you walk around Vegas now, it's like I am smelling that pot smell everywhere.
But I guarantee it's nobody that lives there. It's all the people who are coming from states who don't have it.
It's terrible for somebody who's enjoying going to and plus I don't even gamble. That's the other thing that's hilarious is I don't gamble.
So you go for the buffets and the shows.
Well, yeah, but the best people watching in the world.
Especially now, everyone's high.
Oh, well,
I think
so Dave and I both had gone for every year I've probably been there 16, 17 times. And after this last time, we were like, we're out. So we went to Nashville and oh my gosh, Nashville is a dancer's dream if you love to dance because every single genre of music is reflected in all the bands across every bar. And they're all talented because they're in Nashville.
Sure. I went to Vegas one time when I left early. I was like, this place is like,
well, and you don't like people.
I don't like people.
You know what I mean? Crowds.
I don't like crowds. And I don't like, it's like, I'm like this. I'm like, cool, you're drunk.
You'd rather be in Italy taking a leisurely stroll.
I want to be in Italy. I want to be on the Amalfi Coast. No, like I think it's too like for me, and no disrespect to anybody from Vegas or loves Vegas, like it's so much BS. And I think being from the East Coast, I'm like, what are you doing? Like you're trying to like impress people with what? Like get out of here. Like you're trying. Like everyone goes to Vegas. Like people become these different people, right? Like and everyone's like, I'm in Vegas.
What happens in Vegas?
And for me, I'm like. No, like just roll like yourself. Like I don't know, but it's whatever. And I just think I'm just so proud. I am proud of myself. I am proud that it was, I was like this good time girl. I like to have fun. My husband was the same. He was a good time. Like he liked to have fun. And it was at some point.
Of course, he's South American.
South American, like he, when, we tell stories of the kids. I mean, we tell our kids everything because we want them to learn from all our mistakes. And we also want to let them know anything that you were thinking about doing. He and I have done 25 different ways from Sunday and like we've done it backwards. So, like they start partying very, very young in South America. Like I'm talking. Like 13,
absolutely.
14, like
that's definitely the difference of our culture.
I don't think that there's I'm not trying to live vicariously through anybody else now. I don't have the need because I got it all out of my system. And that's why I'm so thankful that after I went, college was 5.5 hours away. After I moved across the country, to start my career in news and I lived on my own and I kind of figure out, and I used to say this, but my dad hates the phrase, find yourself, because it was like, it's such a hippie phrase, he would say. But I did. Like I got to find myself, and it circles back to what we started in the beginning of the thing. I realized I was coming into my own. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny in our children's book that's going to be coming out. The children's books that are coming out in this month. if I can get these illustrations finished.
I know. I was like, okay.
The illustrations. Okay, so I named we named these books, and you allowed me to pick the name of the main character, which I appreciate. And her name is Grace, and it's honoring my late Sicilian grandmother. But one of the girls in the book, her name is Ginny, and Ginny was one of the first people I met in college. And the reason I used her name was because Ginny was the friend that I met when I went to college that was just like, love me for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she was my first friend that was just like, let me be me, authentically Mandy.
You don't forget those people.
It was just wild because you think about it, when you're in grade school, and this is what I tell my daughter, when you're in grade school and you're in high school, like you form these amazing friendships, right? Everything's manufactured. Because think about it, where our kids go to school, it's all because of the town we chose to live in, the city we live in,
right?
The school district you decide to go to. Like, it's all manufactured. Those really aren't their people,
right?
It's just, proximity.
Oh, exactly.
So when you're able to finally and I had to shrink a lot in high school to, I didn't want to make this person mad or this person mad, or
oh yeah,
you had to like fit in that group. We all know how high school is. So when you get to college and you get to finally, so that Ginny was my first. Nothing like, she just let me be me. And she's still, we have that friendship now. It's like, we may not talk, but we'll pick up the phone, go right back where we, So it's kind of, you never forget that person, that first friend.
And that's one of the best scenes or lines in Stand By Me that I had to show my son and daughter because it's so iconic. And we watched it actually shortly before Rob Reiner was killed. But, okay. I mean, just crazy. So fun fact, didn't know this. We also watched Shawshank. So Shawshank and Stand By Me both were books adapted into screenplays and written by Stephen King.
Crazy.
And I had no idea. So in Stand By Me, there's that line that is so powerful where he says, the writer who's the narrator says, do we ever have friends like the ones we had when we were young? And that's so true because they had that bond like you described where you could just be yourself.
Yeah.
And then you never remember how time evolved and those people sometimes fade out of your life, but then you don't forget how they made you feel, which is what she's describing. Okay. We need to make this more interactive, right? It's the group chat. So it's already 7:46. We've just had so much fun just rambling about and musing about all the things in life, but we want to acknowledge some of the comments. So Mary was saying Amanda and I were not, in reference to children. Being also an honest parent. That's our friend Melissa. I always tell my kids, my generation is why there's Life 360. No kidding. Can you imagine? Like, I cannot imagine.
I mean, like, first of all, can you imagine if our parents had the Ring doorbell and Life 360? And now it's like, thank God for Life 360. Like, because I stalk my kids and I'm like, why are you going 68 miles an hour? Why? Well, you know what I mean? Like I do. I mean, and
I'm not even that. Yeah, I only do the Find My iPhone.
That's because you were a good girl. That's because you were. This is what happened. No, because
well, part of it too is I'm different than a lot of parents. I'm not hands off, but I'm also not all up in their business all the time. Despite my son telling me this week that I care too much about high school kids' drama. Lives.
I'm not. Like,
you know what I mean? Like, I just kind of.
No, I'm not a helicopter mom. Definitely not a helicopter mom, and I'm definitely not a lawnmower mom, right? But I am like, because of everything that I probably put my parents through, and everything everything that I've done. You know what I mean? Like,
you're not letting them pull the wool over anytime soon.
So our daughter, a couple years ago, as high schoolers will, she's gonna kill me for this. Hector's outside and he sees the screen of her window on the ground. So he calls me outside and he was like, oh my God, someone tried to break into our house. And this is right around time I was writing about a local school situation. And so I stand there and I do this and I go, no. And he was like, well, I go, she tried to sneak out. He's like, she would never do that. Not my princess. And I was I call her and I was like, she was at a friend's. I was like, so when did you try to sneak out? And she did the pause and she did the, what? And so I'm like, okay, get home.
What the what is they heard you, but they're trying to figure out what they're going to say.
So anyway, afterwards, she came home and I let Hector handle the discipline, and he was like devastated because not my princess. And I was very calm. So she and I had gotten in the car the next day, and we were driving to a soccer game. And I looked at her and I just went, amateur. And she's like, what? I'm like, you put the screen window back in the, like, what are you doing? Like, amateur. But so it would open up the door. And I said to her, but I was very honest with her. And I said, I know exactly why you tried to sneak out, because she was trying to sneak out past curfew. And I said, you wanted to know what happens in those streets after, curfew. Like, you wanted to go to that
in
party.
the mean streets of Hudson.
In the mean streets of Hudson. But I get it. Like, I never drank in high school. I didn't drink in high school. Maybe like a sip here and there. Senior week
was college.
Senior week was a different story. Like senior week, and that's when we had like grade punch. But like, I didn't drink a lot. I was walking down the Ocean City, Maryland boardwalk with like my romper up to here. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
My parents were so proud of me. But I wanted to go to parties. I wanted to go to the parties because I just wanted to see what I was missing. I wanted to see what everyone was talking about. But I was pretty good. Like, didn't have sex in high school. Like, I was like, you might as well give me, don me a saint.
You were living up to the expectations of the nuns and priests in high school.
Because nuns told you if you had premarital sex, body parts fell off. I'm out. I believe it.
So it's funny that you say that, though, about just wanted to see what everybody's doing, because I was so social that in high school, I still went to some of these gatherings with like the older kids coming back, bringing the alcohol, and you're like, dude, you're 25, Like
in Dazed and Confused.
Yeah. So, and I just never drank, never did drugs. So similarly, that's what I pretty much have always been clear about with my kids is I don't expect that you're never going to be, you're not going to completely shield yourself from it. And you're going to have friends who start to make those choices, but you need to be the one, in my experience. And again, they're their own people, but it's okay to be the outlier. It's okay to go. And then people just know, oh, Tara doesn't drink. And then I wasn't shunned or treated differently. People just knew that that's how it was.
Well, I don't think, you hear the word about, there's a lot of peer pressure. I get it.
Yeah.
But like, I never had a situation where I was like, no, I'm not going to drink.
Do it.
Yeah. Like, no one was ever like,
well, but then it's what you said. A lot of it is they don't even realize it's not so much that they're reacting to peer pressure. It's that they're trying to show that they can fit in and they're one of the guys or one of the girls. So interestingly is what I meant to say. So my daughter was in a situation where there's a lot of kids now locally who do big parties with kids from multiple high schools, right? Because with social media, they all know one another. So like George Wythe, I think, is where kids have gathered and partied. And so she said one night,
you're outing all the parties right now.
Yeah, there was one night. Well, you can see it on, your location. And then you're like, you're out in the middle of a field. Like,
as was I back in the day.
So playing hostage. That's what my son said they play, where they're like driving around and kidnapping people. I mean, it's just interesting times. So Charlotte, my daughter, said one time, I think she was a junior, and she was at some gathering at George Wythe or out on the beach. I put quotes around beach. And the police came, and she said that kids were running and jumping in cars and everybody was, scattering just like the movies. And she walked confidently up to the police officer and she was like, hi, yes, there's a lot of kids here hanging out. And then she ended up driving one of her friends, a guy's truck or something, to drive the kids who had been drinking. But I just thought that was hilarious because I'm like, that is so me, because I would have been the person that was like, officer, I'll walk the line. I'm sober.
And I would have been never touched a drink. I would have been the one to be like, oh, Tara, like, of course you haven't. You haven't been drinking.
You would have been hiding in the water with your swimsuit.
No, I would have been like, no, honest to God, I wouldn't have been drinking, but I would have still been running because my parents would have kicked my butt. Like, I grew up in a very strict house. It was a very, very strict house, but I was pushing the envelope. Like, I mean, I got a tattoo. So my mother told me if I ever got a tattoo, she would burn it off with a match. So when I went to college, of course I got a tattoo. And that's back in the day that you didn't get, like, I have tattoos like on my arms now, like in things, but like you either got it on your ankle or you got a tramp stamp. So my first one was on my ankle. It was on my ankle. And we have a pool in our backyard growing up. Yes, and I hid it for 2 years. So I covered it. Gosh. I put Band-Aids on it for 2 years. And my mom was like, for 2 years, she's like, what is with you? I go, I cut myself shaving. And she's like, I want to see that like scar. My brother would be like, it's something. Like, but I hid it for 2 years because I was always like No, you have to understand.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
I grew up in the era, like, I was afraid of my mom, like completely 1000% afraid of my mom. So that's why my mom would say, like, why are you like, I'm sneaking around. I wasn't doing, and they still don't believe me now. I literally wasn't doing anything bad or wrong. I was just, I didn't tell them because I was afraid of
So you were overcorrecting. Like, so my mom, Joanne Thomas, commented, she said, proud of you, Tara, for the choices you made.
My mom would not.
Nice.
That's so nice, Joanne. My mom would not say that. My mom says this, got like, you have a couple just like you.
Oh my gosh. Let's read these hellos. You guys are so kind to be joining us. So in addition to Mary, we have Gina, our friend Melissa, and then Melissa Byerly. Good morning to you. Tammy, good morning. I don't know why I'm accidentally hiding these comments. There we go. So glad my parents didn't have like Life 360 is what Melissa Byerly said. And then Melissa said, my parents would be like, why is she in the cornfield again? Exactly. That's true. Like, that's where kids still sometimes hang out. Rose is saying good morning. And then Mary had a good comment. She said, MTV should do a reality show out at George Wythe on the beach. Now, I have to mention this because this kind of shocked me, because you and I, as you described, like to think that we've, seen and done it all. But one thing that's new to me is, in this era of Airbnbs, I had no idea that this is now a thing where an older person, so the Dazed and Confused 25-year-old, was it Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah.
That they will reserve or rent an Airbnb, and then it's like the go-to high school gathering place. So there have been.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
These kids are getting Airbnbs, and we were up in the Motel 6.
Like, so my son has even told me that they've gone to parties at these Airbnbs, and then there's kids, from all different schools. And the one thing that is bizarre to me is just, how could you not have Ring cameras and be seeing all this activity, and then as the owner, shut it down? I don't know.
Unless the kids are smart, like I would have been like, let's go through the back door. They probably won't have a camera back there.
Yeah.
Like I would have. But we were literally in the, $25 a night motels,
like no one
where there was questionable
there
substances.
Was not going to be some big house that somebody was renting, because there's no way that people would have ever let that fly unless you were on 16 Candles. You had the mansion.
My parents would go away for down to the beach, down to the shore, for a long weekend.
So
I was
having nosy neighbors.
Well, no, it wasn't just nosy neighbors. So the man across the street, our friend across the street, he was the lead detective for the mayor's office, and then the district attorney's office. My dad's best friend and our next door neighbor, was the lead detective for the Bureau of Criminal Investigation for the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. So I would have parties, and then the one time, I would have really, really good parties. But I was so slick that I would get a police scanner. I would always monitor what was happening. Well, we would be in the basement. And my sister at the time, I bribed her, and she bought us St. Ides, and some Zimas. But I remember and people were smoking cigarettes and other things in my parents' basement. But because I learned a trick from my mom that she wasn't intentionally teaching me, but it was something that I learned from her, because my grandmother, her mom, would smoke in my parents' house, and there was no smoking in the house. If you put a bowl of vinegar out, it absorbs.
My gosh, that is hilarious.
You put a bowl of vinegar out in your house, and so if you have any kind of smell, it absorbs. So that's why I never got caught.
Well,
never got caught.
We only have 3 minutes left, but this has been a fun walk down memory lane. All of our exploits and non-exploits in high school. Your exploits. Lisa, our friend Lisa, said I was definitely a Tara in high school too. And Melissa's laughing at Motel 6. And our friend Kim in Clarksville said, oh, how far away kids are from keg stands in the cornfields.
Kim and I,
those were the best days.
Kim, we're the same. I know we're the same.
What's your four-letter word for the day?
Oh man. You know what? My 4-letter word for the day is talk. And when I say talk, it's because I don't want any woman to shrink. Mm-hmm. You just talk. You say what's on your mind. You speak your piece. You do no harm. Take no stuff, and just talk.
That's good. And my verse of the day is from Proverbs, favorite section of the Bible. If you've ever not been a Bible reader and you want to just get some really profound, truths, read Proverbs 22:4. Humility is the fear of the Lord. Its wages are riches, and honor and life. And this was a word that came up this past Sunday in church, humility, right? Because sometimes, as she described, with our personalities, we aren't always humble and we don't always exercise humility. So that's one thing in 2026. I'm trying to be a little more humble, listen more, and talk a little less. A little. There's a joke that Rick Coleman made in last night's 10 o'clock sports about me at my expense, which I enjoyed. He was at our son's basketball game and he cuts to me in the crowd. And I'm just the parent who doesn't say a word because my husband more than makes up for the cheering from our family. So I was literally just sitting there very calmly.
Like an angel.
So Rick made the comment of like, that's the first time I've ever seen her be quiet. So
Yeah,
I thought that was
funny. It was hilarious.
So, oh my gosh, the hour is up.
The hour is
we
up.
had so much fun and we hope you did too. Thanks for joining us for the group chat. We'll see you here bright and early Friday at 7, or you can watch it on YouTube.
Or we'll see you in Traer.
We'll see you tonight in Traer. Have a great day. And just thanks for all that you do to keep women's empowerment alive and well.
Yeah, absolutely.